Practice makes perfect, chapter 5, just a little pride. Not soft like John. My chains are broken. You're proud of me, aren't you, father? Sure, love you too, Valen. Now give your old man a hug. Do you want me to hunt him down? No, not yet. Just a little pride. Para had found her partner. Well, perhaps find that wasn't quite the right word. She hadn't so much found John as she had hunted him down like a prized stag, but really it was the thought that counted. The principle of the matter, that sort of thing. Semantics, as far as he knew. They'd simply stumbled upon one another, nothing more. He would never know the truth, and that was fine. Ignorance was bliss after all. For once in her life, something had gone right, wonderfully right. I'm just a normal guy. Normal, he said, yet for all of John's claims of normality, there was a certainty in his step, a staid boldness in the way he held himself, that Perry recognized all too well. This was no helpless, bumbling boy. No matter what he might pretend to be, he could conceal it all he wanted, but she knew what she'd seen. She was seeing it now as he walked beside her, not in front of or behind her, but beside her. This was a warrior. The true depth of his skill remained to be seen, but she was certain he wasn't normal, neither was she. Duck! Instinct took hold, and her body obeyed at once, just as well too, because Crozia Morse shot past her, spinning end over end to split the skull of a beowulf that had crept up behind her, followed by the tree behind it, and the tree after that. It slammed against a nearby boulder with a dull thud, and all but sheathed itself in the stone to the hilt. All this in less than a second. Pyro blinked a little as the towering monstrosity crumbled to dust before her like a forgotten memory. Its demise was accompanied soon thereafter by an awful crack of falling trees, the dull groan of splintering stone. Well, that settled it. She called dibs, all the dibs, every dibs. She wasn't letting him get away from her, not after a display like that. And damn it, she heard John mutter to himself as he retrieved his weapon. I threw it too hard. Gotta watch that. Her eyes narrowed. A tiny voice stirred in the back of her mind. Mine? How well could he fight? He clearly had strength and spades, but how was his speed, his stamina? Oh dear! Best focus on the task at hand. John was slopping her away, and she was attend. You all right there? Yes, she managed. I'll be all right. I'm sorry. I didn't see the grim. Nah, it's fine. His smile was sunshine itself. You're only human, after all. It's not your fault. He really was flipping all her switches, wasn't he? But there it was, the mention of his father again. He had already spoken to him in passing a few times minutes ago, but now she found herself curious. His style certainly seemed to be unorthodox enough. If I may ask, why did you throw your weapon? Dad says you shouldn't be afraid to use every tool to your disposal. He shrugged. It just seemed faster, you know. He's always telling me and my sisters to adapt. That sounded wonderful. Her own home life had been less than grad. Despite her best efforts, a seed of envy sprouted in her heart. It took root and threaded itself through her very thought. So, what's he like? She asked. John warmed to the new topic immediately. That's great, but he can be really protective when it comes to family. Juniper considered her husband's punch nothing short of spectacular. Well, perhaps she was a bit biased in that regard. Still, didn't change the result, though. Naruto's fist collided with the poor specialist's. That was the end of it. His target didn't simply die; they ceased to be. That was what was their name again? Vine or something? She supposed it didn't matter. What little remained of him didn't even look human. There was hardly any blood. Everything just evaporated. The soldiers took one look at the space where their commander once stood, impaled. See this? Naruto spread his arms, placing himself firmly between them and his family. This is the part where you run away screaming. Go on now. He waved a hand. Shoo, or the same will happen to the rest of you. No one moved. Really? A blond brow quirked. I'm giving you all a chance to walk away here. You heard him. Stand down. A voice, the very same as before, frantically sought to impose order. I repeat, soldiers of Atlas, a young man with dark skin and dark hair sought to thrash his way towards the front of the rigid men and women before him to no avail. Lower your weapons, damn it! Whatever you do, do not open fire! Someone snarled, and the 2 dozen rifles barked at once. Juniper whirled at once, shielding the children with her body. Naruto stepped past them, lazily interposing himself between them and harm. A hand rose, and as she looked on, blue eyes shimmered into 7 shades of vicious violet. He didn't shout, didn't speak, just raised an arm with lazy grace. Dozens of dust rounds stopped well short of him. They simply hung there, adrift and defiant of all law of reality. His expression was nothing short of fierce. The look of furious father came to reap those who would threaten his family. Good soldiers follow orders, huh? The words escaped him in a low hiss. All right, here, he snarled. You dropped these. Allow me to return them. The air boiled with an almighty push, and Juniper found herself intensely grateful she'd ushered the children back inside. It wouldn't do for the little ones to see this. Men and women dropped in droves, eviscerated by their own bullets. At least the girls wouldn't remember this. Ordinarily, she wouldn't contest killing, least of all in the open like this. Today, she was willing to make an exception. Sable, be a dear and hold your sister. She darted back into the house and pushed the youngest into her daughter's arms. Mommy's going to help Daddy real quick. She performed a cursory head count, then paused as she realized something. Wait, they were too short. Where's Saffron? Town. One of the younger girls sang over the noise outside. Went to see her boyfriend, chimed another. She what? Naruto's voice thundered from the yard. No, never mind that. Even that reckoning, they were still 1 short. Has anyone seen a Valen? A dull crunch from upstairs, punctuated by a familiar laugh, was all the warning Juniper received before a body came crashing down the wooden stumps. She dodged aside with casual grace, sweeping her children with her left. They be ch- children away with her, lest they be bowled away. Just as well too, because say the corpse hit the floor, bounced once, and went crashing out the door. Well, thank heavens for small mercies. At least the little ones didn't see anything horrific. This one thought he was clever. A soft voice purred from the top of the stairs. He slipped in through the back. I caught him. Black Boots descended the steps at speed, and she found herself gazing upon one of her eldest daughters, wrapped in a dark tunic and long flowing skirt to match. Eyes of pure amber, bright and heady, beamed back at her, framed by flaxen hair. Her face was pale and her eyes narrow, but that smile, that was every bit Naruto. Her power lays in the arcane. Her emotions gave her strength, love, hate, joy, sorrow. These were her tools, and with them her chains were broken. This was the Valen arc. It seems we have unwanted guests, mother. She granted her a smile, sweet as sunshine, with the hint of steel lurking underneath. Can I kill them? Juniper stifled a sigh as she gazed upon her wilful daughter. She really did have wild children. Just don't make a mess, sweetie, Naruto's voice called from the young yard. Be a dear and help me clean up this mess, could you? Golden eyes flashed with glee, and she all but shot outside in a swirl of silk. Come in, father! Valen all but dove on the nearest man, ripping her weapon free as she went. A blade of pure golden light sprang to life in her hand and came crashing down. His head went spinning away into the morning mist, a little more than a bad memory. In the same moment her hand shot out and clenched into a claw. Not 3 yards away, a man dropped, clutching at his throat. 2 more rounded on her, rifles raised, only to balk as her blade cut the weapons apart and flung molten shrapnel into their faces. The enemy didn't last long after she started bringing trees down on their heads. Really, it was shaping up to be a massacre. Stay! Until that. Incredibly, the survivors obeyed that singular command, like a pack of bad pets being told to remain still. The handful of surviving soldiers didn't budge an inch. Each stood there, rooted in place. Some remained frozen in the act of attacking. others fleeing, still more gripping lost limbs or grievous wounds. Juniper stepped out and poked one. He didn't budge an inch. I'm so sorry. A young man, the same one as before, all but flung himself at her feet. It wasn't supposed to go this way. As she looked on aghast, he all but prostrated himself. Really, it wasn't. The council told us to. Well, he cast a fretful glance to his squad, then looked back at them with a wince. They wanted us to take you into custody, but Vine, a whimper stole out of him. The general didn't tell us to do this. Really, I swear, it was the council. Naruto shouldered her aside, eyes burning. Who are you supposed to be exactly? Meryl, sir. The man dithered. My name is Meryl. Well, Meryl. A hand reached down, grabbing him by the scruff of the neck. You can send a message to Atlas for me. Are you going to kill me, sir? Juniper tugged at his sleeve. Naruto sighed. No. Instead, he gaze flashed up to the skies ahead, and Juniper saw what he saw. A battle cruiser? What was something like that doing out here in Ansel? He explained where the soldiers had come from, how they had deployed so quickly in the face of such overwhelming odds. But again, why was it here? Her husband glared up at the battleship. I want you to watch this. With casual grace, he raised the hand and tore it out of the sky. That is a big cave. Yeah, understatement of the century there, partner. Huh, partner. John was still getting used to that word. He rather liked the sound of it. In any case, back to the matter at hand, or rather the cave. The great mouth of an impossibly large cavern yawned before them, its depths unexplored. A warning was painted in the side by ink or blood. Certainly it looked red enough to be the latter. Men with spears and bows warded off a large scorpion-like creature, as though they were herding it into the entrance itself, pushing it away from other painted figures who had fallen. Well, that wasn't ominous at all. Should we go in? Wait, what? John recoiled, somewhat startled by the agency he'd been given. You're asking me? Pyro scuffed the boot against the ground. You're my partner. Try as he might to ignore it, he couldn't help but notice the way she emphasized that last word. I'll follow your lead. Should I not? No, no, he interjected quickly. It's fine. I'm just not used to taking charge is all. Huh. He couldn't remember the last time someone had asked him what he wanted to do. Villain and the others were too scary. Even Saffron humored him at best. But this, it felt pretty good. No, really good. He could get used to this. Look at you, stepping out into the world and finding your ego. Almost makes an old fox proud. John blanched. He knew that voice. Nearly every Ark child had heard it at least once. Ordinarily, said voice brought nothing but peace. Not so today. Uncle, I mean Kurama. He shot a thread of thought at the voice. Why are you in my head? Why do you think? He heard the tailed beast equivalent of a yawn. Someone needs to keep an eye on you. Speaking of which, don't go into that cave. Why? Use your training and see for yourself. It was a simple matter to recall his training. One of the first things Dad had taught them, each and every one of them, was how to sense grim. They had a distinct wrongness to them, the anathema of this antithesis of all things good, like oil running over water. He stretched out his senses. Now something responded. It felt like a grim, a very large grim. Nope, not dealing with that. If it was trapped in there, it could stay trapped for all he cared, so long as they didn't provoke it. They'd be fine. There's definitely something in there, he said, for Pyro's sake as much as his own. Probably shouldn't risk it. How can you tell? His partner looked at him, baffled. Is that your semblance? Not really, he edged. Let's call it intuition. How? Well, he waved a hand at the painted wall. That's obviously a death stalker, right? His gloved palm slapped against the mural once for good measure. A very big death stalker. I'd really rather not deal with it. Mind you, he was fairly certain he could handle it if it came to that, but he'd risk blowing his cover. Nope, not happening. No point in picking a fight we don't need, huh? Pyra deferred to him with a nod. Well, if you say so. And that, as they say, was that. From that single choice, things changed, but some things, well, some things remained the same. Forward, faithful steed, to victory! Someone came crashing through the undergrowth at speed, riding an absolute behemoth of an Ursa. John brandished his blade, and Pyra with him. for all the good it did them, said Ursa made it all of 2 steps before them before it slumped over with a groan. A grinning girl rode its even now crumbling corpse to the ground. Hey there! She saw them and flashed the jaunty wave. You haven't heard a guy making sloth calls, have you? Pyro blinked. What does a sloth even sound like? Huh. That's actually a pretty good question, John gabbed. Did did that girl just ride an Ursa to death? I think she did. Kerma physically recoiled in his head. He hadn't thought that possible. Back, foul creature. Go sell crazy someplace else. We're all stuck up here. He dared to step back towards the cave, trying to tamp down on his anxiety. Well, this girl was certainly off. Surely she wasn't that bad, right? Besides, he already had a partner. Everything was great. Everything was fine. His infiltration had been flawless. No one was any the wiser. Nothing to see here. Move along, crazy lady. Behind him, the cave erupted. John flung up his arms. Why me? James Ironwood slammed the scroll down against his desk. What? Who sanctions that operation? The silence soon proved telling. You must be joking. Previews. John looked left, John looked right, John sighed. It really was nice to be wanted and all, but this was too much of a good thing. Right, totally normal. He could do that. Yes, that's what I said. Ren regarded him curiously. Are you alright? Far too sharp this one. No, you're just shit at lying, Kerma said. Nonsense. He was an excellent liar. He'd just have to be on guard. That was all. Nothing to see here. You shouldn't bully her like that. Bully? The girl with pale hair balked. I am doing no such thing. Oh, he frowned, not quite understanding. Then why were you being so rude to Ruby? Excuse me. Her face turned an alarmed shade of puce. Do you have any idea who I am? No. Yang sniggered behind her. Wow, right to her face. Smooth move, lover boy. My father is the most powerful man in the world. Wista stamped a foot. Jackish knee. Ring any bells? Most powerful man in the world. Nah, pretty sure that's my dad. Maybe you know him? Pyro broke and howled with laughter. Nora soon joined her. Weiss lifted Mertonaster. John brandished Crusader Mars. Miss Goodwitch just stepped back sharply. Begin! Naruto sighed. My son, ladies and gentlemen. With a flick of his wrist, Crusader Morse transformed into something else entirely. Reese recoiled with a yelp. How did your sword turn into that? Ruby squealed. I want that! Sometimes you had to bully the bully. A swift kick to the rear sent Cardin packing. Velvet tilted her head, then tilted it some more. Wow. Why didn't he block Mom's number? Against his better judgment, he set the scroll to his ears. Hey, Mom. There was silence. You there? John Ark, her voice prominently boomed. You had better hope your father finds you first, because if I do, I'll take you over my knees and tan your hide until Power leaned over his shoulder. Is everything all right? Hello there. Mom changed gear so quickly it left his head spinning. And who might you be? Just like that, her manner was smooth as cream. You seem like a nice girl. Are you dating my son by any chance? Pyra blushed. John turned rose red. Mom! End of chapter 5.